So first of all, I would like to welcome you all to this conference, and I would like to thank all our guests traveling from abroad to present and to honor Ülo. I also would like to welcome Professor Tamas Partfai, who has been my PhD supervisor at Stockholm University, as Pirjo mentioned. So, and I chose the topic of my talk a little bit more maybe liberal, relaxed, about Ülo's journey from neuropeptides or peptides to chimeric peptides and to cell-penetrating peptides. And I have been working together with Ülo for quite some time. Ülo has been working on peptides almost for 40 years, and I believe with cell-penetrating peptides for almost 30 years. So Ülo has been my mentor, and also we're good friends. So I also will show you, present some maybe fun facts about Ülo and about our journey together, what we have been going through. But to start more, let's say formally, yes, as Anne already mentioned about Ülo's age index, but Ülo is graduated from the University of Tartu in chemistry. We both spent also quite some time in an old chemistry building at Tartu University. Today it's not anymore chemistry building. There is Faculty of Humanities today, and the building doesn't smell anymore of chemistry, organic chemicals. Yes, as Anne also mentioned, I also did my homework, and I actually checked this fact with Ülo, not to be embarrassed that he's the co-author of nearly 500 publications. I think nobody knows exactly what the number is because it's going more and more. I'm still going more and more. And yes, indeed, Ülo's age index is, actually I found 88 in PubMed and 95 in Google Scholar, but well, anyway, nevertheless, this is... Okay, yeah.
95 in Google Scholar,
yeah. Okay, yeah. But this is Ülo is in that terms is one of the definitely the most prominent scientists in Estonia. He has supervised 53 PhD theses. I don't know exactly how many in Sweden and how many in Estonia, but as Anne mentioned, Ülo has been not only active in Sweden. Well, we can consider him as Estonian scientist abroad, but in fact he has been very, very active also in Estonia at the University of Tartu. And he has also a number of PhD students supervised in Tartu. Yes, he's a co-author of 23 patents or patent applications. He's editor of 10 books. So all these are very, very impressive numbers. But now I'm starting Ülo's journey. So with this, I apologize for our guests who don't understand Estonian. This is new thesis in Estonian, and this is I found this. This is a print of a newspaper or journal or magazine of University of Tartu in 1980, and you can just trust me that what is written here, that Ülo defended got his first doctoral degree in this is in Estonian structure and pH effects of cholinesterase in cholinesterase reactions. So, yeah, effects of structure and pH in reactions of cholinesterase. So Ülo started his scientific work working with cholinesterases, and then he was this was before peptides. And as I said, we are good friends, and Ülo is always looking for something new. I don't know if he got bored of cholinesterases. Professor Jaak Järve was doing active work, good work still at those times at the University of Tartu on cholinesterases. There were also a number of PhD studies which were defended on this, but Ülo decided to move further, look at on newer avenues, what can be discovered, and then he moved to peptides, and he had the chance to, from Soviet Estonia. Tartu moved to Sweden. 1987 was the first time Ülo was able to travel to Sweden. I don't know how I will tell my story how I managed to go to Sweden. I don't know what was your story exactly. Where did you get your first visa and what was your travel journey? From Tallinn to Helsinki by boat, from Helsinki to Stockholm by boat, because there were no airplanes. But that was 1987. Ülo took up a position at the University of Stockholm University, Professor Tamas Partwai's lab, which was already investigating neuropeptides and newly discovered neuropeptides. And also, what was very important that Tamas' lab had skills and also the machine. I will tell about machine also later when I come to peptides, which are called M. Okay, I can tell you the story right now. If you the peptides, what I will show and also Tamas will show, Ülo will show, they are the many peptides which are called M. M15, M35, M40, Margus has M300, whatever something. And if you wonder what this M means, they were obviously peptides which were synthesized chemically by solid phase peptide synthesis, but M means machine. That was Tamas' machine. Tamas had acquired from his friends, and the machine was in the lab of Stockholm University, Department of Biochemistry at that time. And those peptides, which are referred as M's, were synthesized by machine, but not manually. But Ülo synthesized, and myself also, we synthesized also quite few, or I would say many peptides manually as well. So yeah, that was really important that at that time there was solid phase peptide synthesis technique. We know that Bruce Merrifield got the Nobel Prize in 1982, perhaps, for this method he discovered. And yeah, and this is Tamas here some 30 years ago. I apologize, this is kind of party, so this is that we have some bottle of nice wine here, but we also had some fun at the lab, so we were not only working. So, and then first peptide was galanin, and what Ülo started to work with. And galanin was discovered by another prominent Estonian scientist abroad. Yeah, I said Ülo is not only Estonian scientist abroad, he's Estonian scientist both abroad and also in Estonia. But Professor Viktor Mutt was at Karolinska Institute, Estonian, who moved to Sweden with his parents after Second World War, and he actually discovered more than 50 biologically active peptides. And here is the photo which is taken right here in this hall 2 years ago in January 19, 2024, when we had similar conference to honor 100 years anniversary of Professor Viktor Mutt. And you can see here Ülo, as you can see Tamas here, then Tarmo Soomere was the president of Academy of Sciences, and Professor Mart Saarma, who is currently president of Academy of Sciences, Professor Thomas Högfeldt, Professor Jaak Järv, and nephew of Viktor Mutt, well-known writer in Estonia, Mihkel Mutt, yeah, and then there's other people in the background as well. So, then I promised to tell you, and then in 1989, I graduated from the University of Tartu, also in chemistry, and I had a chance to go to Sweden, and still, yeah, the time was 1989, Soviet Union, and I also here, this is my first business trip, because this is служебный passport. Служебный in Russian means business. So I had a business passport, like probably Ülo and other Estonians as well, who traveled to. Okay, you had red-covered passport. Okay, I had blue-covered passport. But anyway, so I managed to, and you can see there is in Russian in Kirillitsa. This is my father's name, but somehow I was let over the border in Sweden with this passport, and this was my first visa to Sweden. For 30 days, and I got it in Leningrad. That was St. Petersburg today. So I had to travel. I took a night bus from Tartu to Leningrad. I was next morning in Leningrad, went to Swedish consulate, got my first visa, and left Estonia for 30 days for Sweden, but then eventually I stayed 16 years, so but not only Sweden, and then later in the United States, and also then back in Sweden. And then I moved back to Estonia when we didn't need any more visas because Estonia became member of European Union in 2004. I moved back to Estonia in 2006, 2007, so then the borders were open. But until that time, actually, we used to go every year at least once to police department in Stockholm to get visa or study visa, work permit renewed. But this was kind of our journey, and then we survived, we managed. So. And now our first studies, when I joined the lab, Ülo was providing us peptides. He was he synthesized peptides, both manually and then with machine. He had always, I don't have any kind of picture of Ülo with the lab coat, but I know Tamas has in his presentation. But Ülo was going in the lab around with a white lab coat. It had the kind of touch of smell of organic chemicals, notably hydrogen fluoride, which was used to cleave off, used to cleave off protecting groups in the T-pop chemistry, and also from the resin. And that was our story. And basically, Ülo synthesized peptides, new peptides, and came up with new ideas what to synthesize. And I went to slaughterhouse, how to say. So we used those times rats, rat hypothalamus, hippocampus, and also cell lines, and did ligand binding studies. So we also labeled these peptides by ourselves with radioactive iodine, which is not the case anymore today. But yeah, this was our case, and here is. This is the displacement of galanin and galanin fragments in rat hypothalamic membranes. Yes, we labeled this was tyrosine labeled with iodine, and so the galanin itself is here. Galanin 129, so 29 amino acid long peptide. The IC50 value, or this affinity value, was below 1 nanomolar. It had very high affinity, and in this picture we show that it's N-terminus of galanin, which is important for ligand binding, and also we had different studies also for biological activity. And galanin in that sense is kind of unique. Many other peptides have C-terminus, important for ligand binding. And this is 1 to 29, the full-length galanin. This is 1 to 16, which is about 10 times lower affinity towards galanin receptors. And this is galanin 17 to 29, so it doesn't have any affinity. And then when you mix together 1 to 16 and 17 to 29, though, there was no difference. The affinity was as for galanin 1 to 16. And then we we synthesized the shorter galanin fragments, and galanin 1 to 13 is the shortest fragment, which has a reasonable binding affinity for galanin receptors. So, and then next thing we did, we decided, knowing that 1 to 16 on N-terminal part of galanin is important for ligand binding, we made alanin scan of galanin 1 to 16 to identify important pharmacophores, amino acids, which are important for galanin binding. So once again, this is now, I am sitting here in the lab in the Department of Biochemistry, doing some calculations or preparing for an experiment. Ülo was constantly working, synthesizing new peptides, and just gave me peptides, and not only me actually, but we were to our group. And then we performed alanin scan. Once again, galanin 1 to the full-length galanin with KD below 1 nanomolar, galanin 1 to 16, and then we identified the most important pharmacophore as tryptophan 2. So when you when we replaced tryptophan 2 with alanine. So basically, there was a complete loss of binding affinity. And there are other pharmacophores as well. This arginine 5, tyrosine 9, and so on. So well, knowing that we could go further, then of course we discussed what to do next. And first what we did next, we went to kind of business trip again, because we also had fun. So this is in 1991, summer. We had done some good work. We decided to take a trip to Italy. Here you can see this is the car we were traveling. Lada, I don't know, some of you know, it's Lada O2. Yeah, and we were traveling 5 of us in this car. Üro, his wife Ülle, and son Tõnu were here, and Tõnu has grown up actually, and my wife Kadri and me myself. And when we visited Professor Peep Palumaa in Switzerland, who was doing postdoc in Zurich, then his basically landlord saw that the car was approaching, and then just more and more people coming out, and they asked him, how can you all manage in this small car? But well, obviously they didn't perhaps know that we were from Soviet Union, and we could do everything. So, but trip was a lot of fun, but also business trip, because we visited in Milan our co-worker. I can't remember her name at the moment. Silvana, yeah, and who was doing at Mario Negri Institute. Exactly, yeah, thank you. And and then that was, as I told, that was 1991, August, and when we returned from the trip, we drove all the way from Sweden down to Rome, and then back to Stockholm. And then when we returned, then a few days later, there was a change of regime in Soviet Union. Soviet Union collapsed, Estonia got rid of Soviet occupation, and then that was also something which gave us more enthusiasm and optimism to work further. So, and then now I'm coming to chimeric peptides. So the first chimeric peptide was M15, and once, yeah, this is I already told you what this M means. M means machine. And how did we come to this peptide or fusing together? That wasn't well, but something completely new. There were chimeric peptides had been synthesized also earlier, but as I mentioned, that the rationale was to take another neuropeptide, and as I mentioned, galanin has its as I showed, its N-terminus is important for ligand binding, and then we first peptide we came to substance P, which has C-terminus important for ligand binding. And so and we fuse together galanin 1 to 12, then or 1 to 13, because 13 amino acid is proline, and also in substance P, actually 5th amino acid is proline. So this can be galanin 1 to 12, proline, substance P 4 to 15, or whatever. But anyway, so and we fused it together, and then when you did this is now in RIN-M5F cells, which is a pancreatic cell line, and we did a ligand binding study. Then we were surprised that this is galanin 1 to 29, and this is M15, which was called galantide also at that time. There was a quite significant increase in ligand binding, and as you can see, this curve is not Hill coefficient. That this curve is not 1. It's bigger than 1. So there was also, we didn't at that time know exactly what to do with this, but anyway, this was, galanin M15, galanin, and galanin 1 to 13, and then galanin 1 to 13 plus substance P 4 to 11, so there's no difference. Substance P 4 to 11 doesn't bind to galanin receptors. And then also our collaborators showed that this peptide M15 actually was an antagonist. It reversed galanin-mediated inhibition of insulin release in pancreatic beta cells. So that was the first peptide. And then, yeah, I will not go through this through because my time is over and I will finish soon. But this also, I made a hypothesis or model how it binds. And then, yeah, this was 1991, and then we went on, and then in 1994, my work was done. For that time, I defended my PhD thesis. I don't know why I showed at that time we could show the color, which is your thesis is for the thesis. I don't know why I chose yellow. Maybe that it was dark time in January. I started to write up the thesis and I defended in May. But I defended my thesis and then moved on to United States because Tamas had convinced me that, or said me that you have to go to NIH to do a postdoc. I said, yes, of course. So I did, left the lab for first for 2 years, but I stayed almost 5 years. And then when I came back to Stockholm, then there was already huge, news story about cell-penetrating peptides. So I will not go into these because you will hear now more about, a lot about CPPs, but this is just one work where also I found myself being a co-author that was published in 2001, and as you all know, Transportan was the first cell-penetrating peptide, another chimeric peptide with mastoparan, galanin and mastoparan, that Ülo-synthesized. And then the story went on and on and on. And then finally, I think one of the greatest honors to Ülo for doing his work is, this was 2 years ago, his French colleagues dedicated their book on cell-penetrating peptides to Ülo. So, so this was short story about the Ülo story and our story together from early 80s to today. So thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? We could have time for a quick question. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the nice talk. I have a question related to the chimeric peptide. Why did you choose substance P?
That's a very good question because the next neuropeptide was bradykinin, if I recall correct, M35. I think we chose substance P because Anders Sundén in Tamas lab actually worked with substance P. Maybe you have better memories.
Very small word at that time. Do you hear me? And I think the most remarkable thing in this solid phase peptide synthesis, you see the number of peptides he has synthesized and based his work on. Substance P, which is only 11 amino acids long, and was part of the Nobel Prize of Ulf von Euler, who got the prize for noradrenaline and substance P and prostaglandin. A pretty good prize, I should say. Nevertheless, the composition, but not the sequence, of substance P for 30 years was not solved, and substance P analogues were very hard to synthesize in the solution. And so when we got this machine, I will talk a little bit about it. It was made by Lee Hood, who made the first sequencing machines, and which really changed it. Today's AI people, they are eating data. And the data is the type of data which he has. If you make 50 alanine analogues changing, then so and so affinities will change in this or that tissue, meaning either that the receptor is different or that this pharmacophore is different. The very first mapping of a pharmacophore was made by TID, and I met Ulf von Euler, who was kind of the king of the Karolinska pharmacology at that time. And he said to me that I hear that Victor Muth is not making so much dirty smelling peptide extractions. And it is because he only does it once from a ton of intestine or a few 100 kilo of thalamus. After that, he goes to your place and you synthesize for him so much as it took for tons. I said, not only do we synthesize, but Udo Lange took it over, organized it, labels it, and he sets up the projects. And the two peptides they worked on was neuropeptide Y and galanin, which for the first time systematically the pharmacophores of a peptide were determined. This is not standard. So all the molecules you see, which are now for migraine and so on, they all come from this table of Dietz and Ülow of finding on a long peptide, which are the pharmacophores. And substance P, Ulf von Euler said, if you are to take another peptide, there is no question that it has to be substance P. And in those times, you didn't tell in the middle of the Karolinska Institute garden to Ulf von Euler, you are wrong. There are many others which are more interesting. You got your Nobel Prize for it 30 years ago. You didn't do that. I said, we will look at it, which part of substance P we use. He said, let me give you a slight suggestion. Don't use the N-terminus.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think we will move on now.